Good evening, my dear students. Yesterday we have started the chapter that is how do organisms reproduce, right? So today we are continuing this chapter, the next part of this chapter. Okay. So let's wait 2 minutes. Students are joining. I'm waiting for the students. I will wait 2 minutes. After that, I will start the class. Be ready with your notebook and pen. Okay. Okay. In the last class, we have studied about the some different types of the asexual reproduction, right? So, what are the different types of the asexual reproduction we have studied in the last class? Anybody? Can you tell the answer? So, what are the different types of the asexual reproduction? So, that we studied in the last class. Anybody? Okay. So, in the last class, we have studied about the different types of the asexual reproduction, that is, so first we have studied about the fission, right? Fission, then vegetative propagation, that is also vegetative propagation, then fragmentation, fragmentation, then regeneration, regeneration, and budding, right? Budding. So these all types of the asexual reproduction that we have studied in the last class, and very important, you should know the example for each type. Okay. Then in today's class, we are going to study about the spore formation. Okay. So what is the meaning of the spore formation? So it is a type of the asexual reproduction. It is also a type of the asexual reproduction that we can observe in a bread mold, that is also called as a rhizopus. Bread mold, that is nothing but a rhizopus. Okay, it belongs to the, it is a type of the fungus. And where we can observe this spore formation. So, if you keep the wet bread in a cool or moist dark place, so bread, right? ಸೊ ನೀವು ಬ್ರೆಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಮಾಯಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದು ಡಾರ್ಕ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಸಮ್ ಡೇಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ದ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಫಂಗಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ವೈಟ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬ್ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ ಪ್ಯಾಚಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ಬಹುದು. ಅಂಡ್ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಬ್ರೆಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹಾಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ದಿನ ಹಾಗೆ ಇಟ್ಟಾಗ ಈ ತರ ಒಂದು ಫಂಗಸ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಆಗಿರೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ. ಅಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಅ hyphae of the rhizopus, that is nothing but a growth of the rhizopus on the bread. Okay. And hyphae includes some blob like these thread like structures, so these are called as a hyphae. Okay. And this hyphae of the this fungus that contain the blob like structure, so just observe this structure, so that is called as a sporangia. Okay. The blobs like structure that is called as a sporangia, and this stick like structure that is called as a hyphae. Okay. And this structure it is called as a sporangia. Okay. What it is called? It is called as a sporangia. It contains spores. Many spores are present inside this structure, inside the sporangia. Here you can observe. And when these sporangia burst out, ಯಾವಾಗ ಈ ಸ್ಪೊರಾಂಜಿಯಾ ಬರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, so then it is able to release some spores, and these spores again develop into a new ರೈಸೋಪಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೈಪೇನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಹಾಗೆ ಇನ್ನು ರೈಸೋಪಸ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ರೋ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಅಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್. ಸ್ಪೋರ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ asexual reproduction, and these spores contain thick walls that protect until they come into contact with the moist surface and begin to grow. So these spores are released by the blob-like structure. So when these spores when they got attached to a particular surface or for particular walls, okay, so that is suitable for the germination, so then only the spores will germinate. So ಈ spores ಗೆ spore walls ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, so there will be a thick wall, that is the protective wall, and that to prevent the spore, ಸೊ ಅಂಟಿಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ದ ಜರ್ಮಿನೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ಅದು ಹೊಸ ಒಂದು ರೈಸೋಪಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೊಸ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಬೆಳೆಯೋ ತನಕ ಆ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ದಟ್ ಸ್ಪೋರ್ಸ್ that wall is preventing the spores. Okay, that is about the spore formation. So here what you should what is the important points in this topic? Spore formation, what is formation and where you can observe this spore formation, and the structure, what is sporangia and what is hypae. Okay, and spores contain thick walls. What is the function of the walls, thick walls which are present in the spores? So these all are the important things you have to concentrate. Okay, I hope this topic is clear. Already we have completed. Till now we have studied about the asexual reproduction, type of the different types of the asexual reproduction we observe in the different organism. Okay, so very important, you should learn the examples and concentrate on the definition and examples and different types in that. Okay, so that is about the asexual reproduction. Next, we should know about the sexual reproduction. So, what is sexual reproduction? So, in the sexual reproduction, there is a involvement of the two parents. Two parents are involved and they are able to produce the new organism. Okay, but what is asexual reproduction? Single parent is involved that is able to give rise to the new organism. Single parent and two parents are involved in the sexual reproduction. But why sexual mode of reproduction? You know that the errors during the DNA copying create the variation. Just imagine this is the parent, okay, in the asexual reproduction. During the production of the new organisms, there is a production of the new copy of the DNA, ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಎರಡು ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎ ಕಾಪಿನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಇರೋದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎ ಕಾಪಿನ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಒನ್ ಕಾಪಿಡ್ ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎ ಈಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಟು ದ ಡಾಟರ್. ಓಕೆ, ನ್ಯೂ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ಕಾಪಿ ಆಗಿರುವಂತ ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎ ನ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಬಟ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಕಾಪಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್, ಸೊ ದೆರ್ ಈಸ್ ಎ ಸಮ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್. ಡಿ ಎನ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಚೇಂಜ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಕರ್ಡ್ ಇನ್ ದ ನ್ಯೂ ಜನರೇಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. If the variation do not protect all individuals in a population but help for the survival of the species. So this change, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಫುಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ ನ್ಯೂ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್. ಹೊಸ ಹೊಸ ಎನ್ವಿರಾನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಗೆ, ಹೊಸ ಹೊಸ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ಗೆ ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಸ್ಪೀಶೀಸ್ ಸರ್ವೈವಲ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಫುಲ್. ಓಕೆ, if DNA copying mechanism are less accurate, the resultant DNA cannot work. Okay, ಇಲ್ಲಿ DNA ಕಾಪಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, if the DNA is copying, but it is not similar to the parent DNA, ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ, ಕಾಪಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ DNA ಬಟ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ, that DNA is not able to survive in the ನ್ಯೂ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್. ಆ DNA ಏನಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ನ್ಯೂ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ವೈವ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ವೇರ್ ದ ಮೋರ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಕರ್ ಇನ್ ದ DNA. But this is in case of the asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, there are two parents. Just consider male and female. Okay, male and female, they combine to produce the new organism. This new organism, so that is generated by the sexual reproduction, that is having the more variation than its parents ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ ಗಿಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೇಂಜಸ್, ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡಬಹುದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ಸ್ ದ DNA ಫ್ರಮ್ ಬೋತ್ ದ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? ನೋಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಈ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಹೊಸ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಮೋರ್ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ದನ್ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಿಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ಸ್ ಬೋತ್ DNA from the both parents. Okay, so that receives the DNA copies from the both the parents, so it has the similar to the both parents alva, but ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ದ ಮೋರ್ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ನೀವು ಆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಪ್ಪ ಅಮ್ಮನಿಗೆ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಹೋಲಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನ ಹೊಂದಿದ್ರ, ಬಟ್ ದೆರ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆನಿ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಎಷ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅಪ್ಪನಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ ಅಮ್ಮನಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರಬಹುದು, ಆದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ನೀವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಲ್ವಾ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಗಿಂತ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಕಿನ್ ಕಲರ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಹೇರ್ ಕಲರ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಏನೋ ಏನಾಗಿರತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಯು ರಿಸೀವ್ ದ DNA ಫ್ರಮ್ ಬೋತ್ ದ ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್. And these all changes accumulated and that is inherited from generation to the generation. Here what we are saying, from the male also you are receiving the copy of DNA, and from female also you are receiving the copy of the DNA, but the DNA amount will not have the twice amount. It is due to the, so here the DNA is not twice in the new organism. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಲಿಂದಾನು ಒಂದು DNA ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಇಂದಾನು ಒಂದು DNA ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಏನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ವೈಸ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತು, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಡಬಲ್ DNA ಇರ್ಬೇಕಿತ್ತು ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ the DNA amount will be not twice. Okay, that is about the sexual reproduction. During the sexual reproduction what happens, so that we have to study in detail agi study ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ನೋಡಿ. So this is the male. Okay, that is having the special cells for the reproduction. Okay, this is the female. These males, they have the special reproductive cells. Okay, normal cells bere, reproductive cells bere, so they have the special reproductive cells. Okay, so just imagine this is the reproductive cell, you can call it as a, so they produce the gametes. The special reproductive cells, they are present in the parents, they produce the gametes, and these gametes they will fuse, and these both gametes they will fuse. Gametes ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಆ gametes fuse ಆಗಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, that is forming the zygote, and this zygote will develop into a new organism. ಓಕೆನಾ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ತರ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. But here these reproductive cells, they will undergo the meiosis cell division. Meiosis cell division ನಲ್ಲಿ ಈ reproductive cells ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, so they will produce the gametes that is having the half number of, that contains the half number of chromosomes that is present in the parent. ನೋಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ 46 ಕ್ರೋಮೋಸೋಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಮೇಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ 46 ಕ್ರೋಮೋಸೋಮ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ಸ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೀಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸೆಲ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. And that gamete contains the 23 chromosomes only. Here, this gamete also contains the 23 chromosomes. And these both gametes, they will fuse and form the zygote. Zygote ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು chromosomes ಇರಬೇಕು ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ? Anybody? Zygote ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು chromosomes ಇರಬೇಕು ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ? Zygote ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು chromosomes ಇರಬೇಕು? In the zygote there should be a 46 chromosomes that will develop into a new individual. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ? Here this 23 chromosomes ಹಾಫ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಏನು ಬಾಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ಹಾಫ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಮಿಯೋಸಿಸ್ ಸೆಲ್ ಡಿವಿಷನ್. ಮಿಯೋಸಿಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನೀವು PUC ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲಿತೀರಾ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ರೀಸನ್. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ನ್ಯೂ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯಾನಿಸಮ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ ಇಂದಾನು ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಸಾರಿ ಮೇಲ್ ಇಂದಾನು ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಇಂದಾನು ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ಡಬಲ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಪೇರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿರುತ್ತೋ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಹ್ಯಾವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಹಾಫ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಕ್ರೋಮೋಸೋಮ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, here, the gametes from two individuals combine to form the zygote that develop into a new individual. ನೋಡಿ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ, and in males it is male gamete is called as a sperm. Okay, that is forming the zygote. ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? egg, sperm, and that is forming the zygote. So here you can observe the in some complex organism, one germ cell is large and contain the food materials, and it is called as a female gamete, and other is small and motile, it is called as a male gamete. Common agi complex organism ಅಲ್ಲಿ large ಆಗಿರೋದು, large and it stores the food material, that is called as a female gamete, and other is called as a male gamete. Okay, so that fuses to form the zygote. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಬಹುದು. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್. ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್? ಓಕೆ, then sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So here flowering plants means it is, they are nothing but the angiosperms. Angiosperms, they are producing the flowers, right? In the flowers you can observe the sexual reproduction in plants, especially in flowering plants means in angiosperms you can observe the sexual reproduction. Then here in plants, flowers are the reproductive structure. So, which are the reproductive structure here? Flowers are the reproductive structure in angiosperms. And you know that some plants, all the plants, they are not able to produce the flowers. For example, gymnosperms. Alla plants ಏನಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ flowers ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Only higher plants like angiosperms ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಕರಿತೇವೆ, ನೀವು 9th ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ? angiosperms, gymnosperms ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟಡಿ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ angiosperms ಏನಿದೆ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, and these flowers are the reproductive part of the angiosperms. Then so if you take the flower, so you should study about the flower now, right? Because it is the reproductive part. You should learn about the reproductive part now. So here in the flower, we can observe the four important structure. Four important structure of the flowers, that is sepals, petals, stamen, and pistil. So let us learn one by one. What is sepal, what is petal, what is stamen, and what is pistil. So four important structure of the flower, they are sepals, petals, stamen, and pistil. So what are sepals then? So these are the sepals. These are the outermost part which protect the bud. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ವೆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಬಡ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್, ಈ ತರ ಬಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ಬಡ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸೆಪಲ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಗ್ರೀನ್ ಕಲರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಹೀಗೆ ಈ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಇರೋದನ್ನ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ಬಹುದು ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಸೆಪಲ್ಸ್ ದೇ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ದ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ಬಡ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್. ಬಡ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅದೇನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಬಡ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್, ದೇ ಆರ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ದ sepals. Then petals. Petals are nothing but the colorful part of the flower. So this is nothing but the petal, that is the colorful part of the flower, that is called as a petal. And what is the function of this petal? That attract the pollinators, that attract the some bees or some organisms for the pollination. Adanna next ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ನಾನು. So that is the brightly colored part of the flower and attract the pollinators. Okay. Then third part, that is the stamen. Stamen is, that is the male reproductive structure. Stamen is the male reproductive part, and this part, so this is the stamen. Okay. So this stamen that contain two main parts, that is anther and the filament. So this structure, it is called as a anther, and it is this thread-like structure, it is called as a filament. And these anthers, they produce some yellow color structure. ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೆಲ್ಲೋ ಕಲರ್ ಪೌಡರ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಆಂಥರ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಅದನ್ನ ಆಂಥರ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ದಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸಸ್ ದ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್, ದಟ್ ಯೆಲ್ಲೋ ಕಲರ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀರಾ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅನ್ನ ತೆಕ್ಕೊಂಡು ನೋಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯೆಲ್ಲೋ ಕಲರ್ ಪೌಡರಿ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ anther. Okay. And this pollen grains that produces the male germ cell, means it produces the male gamete. ಈ pollen grain ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, male gamete ಅನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Okay. So that is about the stamen. What is stamen? That is the male reproductive part. It contains the anther and filament. These anthers, they produce the pollen grains, that is in the yellow color, that produces the male gametes. Pollen grains ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, male gametes ಅನ್ನ production ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Okay. That is the male reproductive part. And fourth important reproductive structure, that is the pistil. What is pistil? ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದ ಫ್ಲವರ್, ಇನ್ ದ ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಈ ತರ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಇನ್ನರ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್, ಇಲ್ಲಿರತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಪಿಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್. ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ದ 3 parts. This is totally called as a pistil, and this pistil has stigma. This is stigma, and this elongated structure, that is called as a style. And at the bottom, the bulge structure, this one, that is called as a ovary. Okay. So swollen part of the this structure, that is called as a ovary. And inside the ovary you can find the ovules. Ovules irutte, ovary ಒಳಗಡೆ ovules irutte, and this ovules contain the female gamete, that is egg. Okay. So that is called as female gamete, that is called as a egg. ನೋಡಿ, female reproductive structure, that is called as a pistil, that is having the stigma, style and ovary. Ovary ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ಓವರಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಓವ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಓವ್ಯೂಲ್ಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ ಎಗ್ ಸೆಲ್. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದಿ pistil. I hope this concept is clear. Is that clear? Doubt idya? The 4 important structure of the flower: sepals, petals, stamen and pistil. And what is the function of the sepals? What is the function of the petals, stamen and pistil? So these all are very important. Okay. So in the flower, you can observe the mainly two types of the flower. The first type is unisexual flowers and second type is the bisexual flowers. What do you mean by unisexual flowers? Unisexual flowers means they contain either stamens or pistil. So they may contain either male reproductive part or female reproductive part. Okay. Stamens means male reproductive part and pistil is the female reproductive part. Only one type of the reproductive structure will be there. In all the flowers, these male and female reproductive parts will be not in the same flower. So it may be in the different flower. ಮೇಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ. So this type of the flowers they are called as a unisexual flowers. And bisexual flowers means contain both stamen and the pistil. ಮೇಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಎರಡು ಇದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಬೈಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನ್ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ? ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ bisexual flower or unisexual flower? Bisexual or unisexual? That is a bisexual. You can observe the male reproductive part and here female reproductive part. Okay. So I will give one activity for your ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇದ್ದವರು ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸೊ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ದ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್ ವಿಚ್ ಆರ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸರೌಂಡಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ದ ಮೇಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ಸ್ and which flower contain both male and female reproductive structure and observe the which flower do not contain both the structure. Okay. So male ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡೂ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಯಾವ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್. ಓಕೆ. ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಮೇಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ ತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಟೇಮನ್ಸ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂಡ್ ಓವರಿ ಯಾವ ತರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ you will get idea. After that observe the other flowers. Okay. So I hope this topic is clear. Then pollination. So what do you mean by pollination? So there should be a transfer of the male gamete to the female gamete. They should fuse, right? So that is nothing but a pollination. Transfer of the pollen grains from the stamen to the stigma. You know that pollen grains they are produced by the anthers. Anthers in the ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So here in this flower you can observe the anthers here. Anther is here and it is having the stigma style and ovary here. Okay. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ovary ಇದೆ, stigma ಇದೆ, style ಇದೆ and anthers they are producing the pollen grains. These pollen grains they should transfer to the stigma. ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು, ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದಟ್ ದೇ ಶುಡ್ ರೀಚ್ ದ ಓವರಿ. ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾಕ್ಕೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಾಗಬೇಕು, ಓವರಿಗೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ದ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್? ವೆರಿ important question. Transfer of the pollen grains from the stamen to the stigma. Stamen in the stigma ke pollen grains transfer agodana. So that we call as a pollination. In pollination, there are two types. Self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination means what? In a flower, both pollen grains are produced and it contains the female reproductive structure which are mature at the same time. Pollen grains also produced and stigma is also ready to receive the pollen grains. Then here self-pollination you can observe here. Then transfer of these pollen grains to the stigma of the same flower. ಸೊ ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಎರಡು ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೇಮ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಮೇ ದರ್ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅ ಚಾನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ವ್ಯಾರ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ದ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಬೈಸೆಕ್ಷುವಲ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್. ಹೈಬಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಮಸ್ಟರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ನೀವು ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾಕೆ? there are both male and female reproductive structure and transfer of the pollen grains takes place within the same flower. Same flower ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, pollen grains transfer ಆಗತ್ತೆ. But if you observe the cross pollination ಹೇಗಾಗ್ಬೋದು? Just imagine there is no ovary or ovary is not matured. Okay. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಓವರಿ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಓವರಿ ಇದೆ, ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದೆನ್ the transfer of the pollen grains from the one flower to the another stigma of the another flower. Transfer of the pollen grains from one flower to the stigma of the another flower by the agents. It may be a uh, animals, or it may be a wind, it may be by wind, or it may be by water. Okay, so ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಮೀಡಿಯಾ ಥ್ರೂ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಒಂದು ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಇಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಫ್ಲವರಿಗೆ, ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ, ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗೋದನ್ನ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ಈ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು? Sometimes some flowers, they do not contain both the structure and they will not get mature at the same time. ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ವಾಟರ್ ಮೆಲನ್, ಪಪಾಯ, ಐ ಗೇವ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್, ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್, ಸೊ there should be a ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಈ ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾಕ್ಕೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಬೈ ದಿ ಸಮ್ ಏಜೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಬೈ ದಿ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಬೈ ವಿಂಡ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗ್ಬಹುದು, ಆರ್ ಬೈ ವಾಟರ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಏನಾಗಬಹುದು, ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್. ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾಕ್ಕೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್, ಪಾಲಿನೇಷನ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಈಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? Pollination is completed. Here, after pollination, a pollen tube grows. Here, pollen grains ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಸ್ಟಿಗ್ಮಾ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? Here, pollen tube will form. ಒಂದು ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಿ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್. ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ಸ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಪೋಲನ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಅನ್ನ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಪೋಲನ್ ಗ್ರೇನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಜರ್ಮಿನೇಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ದಿ ಪೋಲನ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್. ಈ ತರ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ಸ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೀಚ್ ದ ಓವರಿ. ಅದೇನಾಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ, ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ರೀಚ್ ದ ಓವರಿ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಓವ್ಯೂಲ್. ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಆ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇನಾಗಿದೆ, ದಟ್ ಪೋಲನ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಈಸ್ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲಿಂಗ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದಟ್ ಪೋಲನ್ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್, ಇಲ್ಲೇನಾಗಿದೆ, ಒಂದು ಪಾತ್ವೇ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ? Through that pollen tube, this pollen grains release the gametes, male gametes ಅನ್ನ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. And this male gametes, they will travel inside the pollen tube. ಈ pollen tube ಒಳಗಡೆ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಯಾವ ತರ ಯೆಲ್ಲೋ ಕಲರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ರೀಚ್ ದ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಗ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಓವರಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಓವ್ಯೂಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಓವ್ಯೂಲ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟಿಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ and this is the female gamete. When the male germ cell, when the male gamete fuses with the female gamete, it forms the zygote by the process called fertilization. Okay, by the process called fertilization. So there is a question, what is fertilization? It is the process of fusion of the male gametes with the female gamete, that is called as a fertilization. This fertilization is a common word we use in the reproduction. So ಈ reproduction part ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಈ fertilization ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೇವೆ. When the male and female gametes fuse and they form the zygote. Okay, so this is the zygote. And this zygote divides several times to form the embryo within the ovule. And this zygote, ಈ zygote ಏನಿದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಆ zygote ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇರತ್ತೆ, that will divide. ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಿಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ that fused and formed the zygote ಅಲ್ವಾ? zygote formation ಆಯ್ತು. And this zygote that will divide many times within the ovule, that forms the embryo. Zygote that forms the embryo. Okay, so this is about what happens after the pollination. Clear ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಡೌಟ್ ಇದೆಯಾ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ? Is there any doubt? Any doubts? Sorry for the interruption. Am I audible? ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ರಿಪ್ಲೈ. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ರೇಣುಕಾ, are you able to hear my voice? Okay. So after the formation of the embryo, so after the pollination, after the formation of the zygote, that develop into a embryo, and inside the ovule, that ovule develops a tough coat and becomes a seed. Totally, that ovule develops into a seed. Inside the seed, you can find the embryo. Okay, and ovary grows into a fruit. Ovule develop into a seed and ovary grows into a fruit. Okay, that is very important. And what happens to the remaining parts of the flower? Petals, sepals, stamens, and stigma and style. So these all parts they will fall off after the time. Petals, that is the colorful part also, fall off, and sepals, stamens, and style and stigma. These all will fall off after the time. Okay, so that is what happens in the fertilization or the in the sexual reproduction of the plant. Okay, so just I want to repeat that. First thing, male gametes are produced, that is in the pollen grains, so that is produced by the anthers, and female gametes, that is inside the ovary. Okay, and so these male and female gametes, they will transfer through the process, that is by the pollination. Pollen grains, they will transfer to the stigma of the flower by the process that is called as a pollination. After the pollination, what happens? Male and female gametes will fuse, that is called as a fertilization. That is called as a fertilization. And after the fertilization, zygote will form. That zygote, that will develop into a embryo. Okay, and ovule, that will that will develop into a seed, and inside the seed you can find the embryo. Seed ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ? Embryo ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, and ovary, which is this part. Okay, ovary develops into a fruit. Ovule develop into a seed and ovary develops into a fruit, and remaining parts they will fall off. And seed contains the embryo. Inside the seed, embryo will be there, that will develop into a new plant, right? And which develops into a seedling under the suitable condition. Seedling means the seed that will develop into a seedling when the suitable condition is available. Water, moisture, temperature, when the suitable condition is available, that develop into a new plant. So that the seeds, they will develop into a new plant, that contains the embryo. Okay, here you can observe the how the a germinated plant looks, the germinated seed. Okay, so these are the cotyledons. It may be a monocotyledon or dicotyledon. Here, during the germination, you can observe here. Here they are showing the dicotyledon seed. This is the plumule, that is called as a future shoot, means that will develop into a shoot part of the plant. And radicle, this part is called as a radicle, and that will develop into a future root, and it will develop into a root. Please remember, the plumule means the future shoot and radicle means future root. Very important, this diagram is asked in the MCQ, find the uh, figure out this part. So this part is called, what is the name of this part? Okay, so like that they ask the question. So this diagram is also very important. So this is about the sexual reproduction in the flowering plants. I hope this topic is clear. Then we should discuss about the reproduction in the human beings. So till now we have discussed the different types of the reproduction in the different organisms. First we have studied about the asexual reproduction. And then in the sexual reproduction in the flowers, so that we have studied. Now it's the time to study about the how the reproduction occurs in the human beings, because human beings are the most complex organisms, well developed organisms, we can say, right? So how this reproduction occurs in the human beings. So in the human beings, in the early teenage, we can observe the appearance of the proportions of the body change and new features and the sensation appear. So in the human beings, in the teenage, so after 12, 13 years, so there may be a body change occurs. So that changes that indicate the sexual maturation, means that organism is ready for the sexual reproduction. Means you can observe the changes in the body, or um, so from birth to after 10 to 12 years you can observe the growth, that is called as a growth alva. Body ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, growth ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. But growth is different, and the changes that occurs during the teenage, that is different. That is called as a maturation of the sexual, that is called as a sexual maturation. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, growth is different and sexual maturation is different. Sexual maturation you can observe after 13 14 years, okay, 12 after next. And you can observe some changes in the boys and girls. So common changes that you observe, that is the thick hair grows in the armpits and genital area, which become darker in color. So you can observe the hair growth in the different parts of our body, and thinner hair on legs, arms and face. In the different parts of the body we can observe the thinner hairs, both boys and girls, okay. Skin frequently becomes oily and may cause the pimples. In the teenage, in the boys or girls, you can observe the, not in all boys and girls, in some. So that is the indication of the sexual maturation. Pimples will form, and some changes that you can observe in girls only, and some changes that you can observe in the boys. In the girls, breast size increases and darkening of the nipples and menstruation cycle begins. So that is the changes that occurs in the females that indicate the sexual maturation, means they are able to reproduce sexually. And changes in the boys, thick hair on the face, growth of the hairs on the face, and voice begins to crack, and erection of the penis daydreams or at daydreams or at night. So these all changes that is the indication of the sexual maturation, okay. But these all changes, they will not occur suddenly. So it is a gradual, or it is occurs slowly and gradually. Here you can observe the changes in the growth and the this sexual maturation. Growth means in the year, in the previous year, like from birth to the 10 to 12 years, you can observe the just fall down of your milk teeth ಬಿದ್ದೇನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಹೊಸ ಹಲ್ಲು ಉಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. That is also a um, that is indication of the growth. Body growth fast ಆಗಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. But so here, up to adult stage, resources of the body are mainly used for the growth. Now, up to adult, so body is meant for mainly for the growth, not for the maturation. Body is not mature till that. Then the growth rate slows down and reproductive tissues begin to mature. After that, growth will be less, but reproductive tissues begin to mature. This period during the adolescence is called as a puberty. What is puberty? Very important. So during this period, what happens? Growth rate slows down and reproductive tissues begin to mature. This period during the adolescence is called as a puberty. And what are the changes occurs during the puberty? That are the signals for the sexual maturity, so that individuals can identify them for the mating, means they are ready for the sexual reproduction, okay. So these all changes that occurs in the humans that indicate the sexual maturation. So after that they are able to reproduce, okay. So these all are very important. What are the changes occur during the adolescence in the females and in the males? So these all are very important. Next, male reproductive system. So in human male reproductive system, it consists of testes and it contains some ducts for the delivery of the germ cells. So these are nothing but testes. They are pair in number. They are pair of testes are present in human males. So these are testes, and these testes are present in the sac-like structure that is called as a scrotum. Okay, testes are present inside the sac-like structure that is called as a scrotum. Why testes are inside the scrotum? One mark question, very important. Because testes are located in the scrotum because sperm formation requires a lower temperature than the body temperature. ಈ ಟೆಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಯಾಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್, ಒಂದು ಪೌಚ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇದೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ಕ್ರೋಟಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ವೈ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ಸೈಡ್ ದ ಸ್ಕ್ರೋಟಮ್? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ the testes require the less temperature than the body temperature to production of the sperms. 2ರಿಂದ 2.5 ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಸೆಲ್ಸಿಯಸ್ ಏನಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಕಡಿಮೆ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಇರಬೇಕು. ದೆನ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ಸ್, ಮೇಲ್ ಗ್ಯಾಮೆಟ್ಸ್. ಆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತ್ರ ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆ. Testes also secrete hormone testosterone. You know that you studied in the control and coordination chapter. Testes, they secrete the hormone that is called as the testosterone. It regulates the formation of the sperms and changes in the boys during the puberty. So this testosterone is formed by the that is released by the testes. What is the function of the testosterone? Very important. That is responsible for the changes occur during the puberty, and it also regulates the formation of the sperms. That is very important. The formation of the sperm also regulated by the testosterone. Very important, these 2 points. Then testes, they produce the sperms, but it should transfer to the structure that is called as a penis, right? So some ducts are required to transfer the male gametes to the penis. Through the penis, it is transferred to the female reproductive structure. Alva, ಇಲ್ಲಿ sperm production ಆಗಿದೆ. sperm production ಆಗಿರೋದೇನಾಗಬೇಕು, female reproductive structure ಗೆ transfer ಆಗಬೇಕು. So these sperms, they will travel in the duct-like structure. So that is called as a vas deferens. Vas deferens. So they will move in the vas deferens structure, and they will reach the common uh, opening for the urine, passage of the urine and the sperm, that is called as a urethra. ಈ duct through ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ, they will reach the urethra which is present inside the penis. ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಪೆನಿಸ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಯುರಿತ್ರ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, ಯೂರಿನ್ ಕೂಡ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಕೂಡ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ. ಥ್ರೂ ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್, ಯೂರಿನ್ is also passing and sperms also passing in the same duct, that is a urethra. And during the transformation of the sperm in the urethra, so it receives, these sperms receive the some secretion from the seminal vesicles and prostate gland. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ, ಸ್ಪರ್ಮ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ, there are glands and they will receive the some substances, that is fluid like substances that help for the um, um, that is helping for the sperms, and they are providing the nutrition for the sperms to travel, to move in the female reproductive structure. ಇಲ್ಲಿ sperms ಗೆ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸೆಮೈನಲ್ ವೆಸಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪ್ರೋಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಪ್ರೋಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸೆಮೈನಲ್ ವೆಸಿಕಲ್ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, they will secrete the some secretions. So here they will secrete the some secretions fluid like secretion that that is mixed with the sperms. Fluid like secretions ಏನಾಗತ್ತೆ sperm ಜೊತೆ mix ಆಗಿ, and that is called as a semen. What is semen? The sperm that is mixed with the sperms that is mixed with the fluid like substances that is secreted by the seminal vesicles, that is called as a semen, and it makes the transport of the sperm easier and provide the nutrition. What is the function of the secretion which is secreted by the seminal vesicle and the prostate gland? ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಮೈನಲ್ ವೆಸಿಕಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪ್ರೋಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ಗ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಸೀಕ್ರಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಫ್ಲೂಯಿಡ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್. ಅದರ ಯೂಸ್ ಏನು? ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಯೂಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಟ್? ಓಕೆ, that help for the sperm to transport easier and provides the nutrition. And the sperm consists of the genetic material and long tail and helps move towards the female germ cell. Sperm that is contain the genetic material, DNA ಇದೆ sperm ಅಲ್ಲಿ genetic material ಇದೆ, and that also contain the tail like structure. ಈ ತರ tail ತರ structure ಇದೆ, and this structure that helps for the sperm that move in the female reproductive structure. Female reproductive structure ಗೆ pass ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ, so that is very helpful. Okay, so this is about the male reproductive structure. So in the next class we will study about the female reproductive structure. So if you have any doubts, you can ask now. Otherwise, I will end the session here, and I will continue in the next session about the female reproductive structure. Okay. Please study the important points what I have explained in this topic. Male reproductive structure ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು explain ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ, important structures ಅನ್ನ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the next class, or now also you can ask the questions. Okay. Yes. Any doubts? Okay. Thank you. We'll meet in the next session.